Start today, the future's in your hands. Pitch in, reduce, reuse, recycle, rethink. Let's sort our trash into recycling bins. One for the paper, one for the glass, one for the tins, one for the plastic. Protecting the environment's easier than you think. So easy, so easy.
For the communications team of Pick It Up, I just think they did a great work in putting this whole program together. Let's now just give them a hand, the communications team of Pick It Up, for this powerful program. And as a board, we want to congratulate them on this great work that they have done this morning.
If I can have each of you just sharing one statement, we'll start here. Andy.
They say that you educate a child, you educate a nation. And we find that the majority of our UJ volunteers get into the primary schools and the secondary schools, and we're educating students and little children on how to stop littering the area around them. And it's really a magnificent. And we find that when these children get home, when their parents are littering, they correct the parents. They tell the parents, Mom, Dad, there's a bin bag, put all the litter into the bin bag. And so when we educate these children in schools, we are educating the nation.
And we don't want to disappoint our kids, so we do what they say. Maureen.
Well, thank you. I think, speaking on behalf of the city and, as the regional director as well, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank everybody. And I think that, as a collective, we're seated here representing various organizations and various structures. I think we need to try and ensure that, what we've started today, at least we continue by spreading the message using all kind of media. I feel that, our communication shouldn't just be confined to us here in a city. It should spread beyond, spread beyond the boundaries of the region. So I'm hoping that this kind of initiative, if we can sustain it.
As the Miss Earth organization, when we, I think the very important thing for us to understand is that for us, active citizenship is an important element. And the Waste Stops With Me campaign is really about how do we ensure people rethink about waste as a consumer. Because each and every one of us buys something every single day. How do you dispose of the items that you have? How do you ensure that you're thinking about the long-term impacts of the packaging that you have in your home when you go and you buy your vegetables? Keeping it really simple and keeping it understandable that each and every person can actually think about how is it that they can relook at how they use their waste by recycling it, upcycling it, reusing it, and how are we responsibly making sure that we dispose of our waste at home, at work, at universities, at schools, and within our communities.
The City of Johannesburg decided to then establish Pick It Up as a waste management entity to service the citizens of Johannesburg. So our role as Pick It Up, therefore, is to make sure that we collect waste, dispose of waste, and make sure that the city is kept clean. However, I think that as we have dialogues such as this, and also to follow on to some of the pronouncements or suggestions that have been made by the previous speakers, there is a need to redefine the role of Pick It Up. Because the truth is, Pick It Up does not litter. Pick It Up does not generate waste. Pick It Up just work after people who litter and people that are generating waste. Now, one of the responses that the City of Johannesburg has embarked on to try and shift responsibility for waste management to the communities themselves is the introduction of the Jozi at Work program. The Jozi at Work program is a very important program, another mayoral flagship program. Jozi at Work is all about making sure that the city makes a contribution in terms of addressing the problem of unemployment and inequality by making sure that cooperatives are set up, communities are involved in issues relating to waste management, from picking up waste, clearing illegal dumping, street cleaning, and also recycling, and in turn are paid for the work that they are doing. But for me, that is secondary. The whole issue around job creation in line with Joset's work is a secondary objective. The primary objective is to make sure that people that reside within a particular area take responsibility for their own area in terms of making sure that their areas are kept clean. Going back to the issue that has already been spoken about around the need for us to take pride and demonstrating patriotism to make sure that we don't always complain, but we take responsibility in our own hands and make sure that we deal with the issue of cleanliness and health in our communities. But even more importantly, all of us that are already in the planet now have got the responsibility to make sure that our future generations find this earth the same way that we wish we could have found it in our, as we are in it at this point in time. Thank you.
You know, we talk a lot about data. I mean, look at this, look at the room, look at the people in the room. Where is the big business? Where are the big polluters in the room, in the country? Because the impression is that, yeah, it's those people there, inner city decay. And the subtext to that is actually that those Africans are now in town. That is why we have to get out. And I think we need to address this thing. If we are going to build a South Africa, we need to understand that we are all here and that this is our country, all of us. The same country that you are ravishing, your own children will grow up in that country. So I'm just saying that as we rethink around these issues, we need to take a South African viewpoint. And that South African viewpoint, it says that we are in this thing together. And equally submit that, unfortunately, this generation is the most irresponsible and selfish generation that has ever lived, because we are consuming the resources that should be consumed by children, our children's children, 5 generations down the road.
Motivate the people that you work with to pick up and pitch in and to still continue next week when the rubbish is still there? How do you motivate, Irene?
As part of the regeneration of the inner city, we have been engaging with all the private sector, all the NGOs, and including creating an inclusive environment where you also have taxi operators, street traders, community members, business owners, small business owners. Because sometimes, when you're looking at investment, sometimes you also have to be very cautious to ensure that you don't create an environment that makes other people feel excluded. So we've been trying to create a very inclusive structure within the city that will ensure that everybody else participates, because we can see that there are a lot of challenges. What we've noticed, which I think comes out depending on who you are engaging with, if we separate the interest groups, you find that the traders, the taxi operators, they feel that when bigger investors comes in and they start redeveloping the area, dealing with public infrastructure, great buildings and converting them into offices or apartments, and they put in additional security, additional cleaning services, which augments, which is in addition to what the city is providing.
I like the fact that Johannesburg regards itself as a world-class African city. And I think it's about, Jim Collins wrote a very interesting book entitled Good to Great. I think it's about us looking at the key lessons of how do we move from being good to being great. That we do have the DNA of greatness as the people of this city and as the people of South Africa. But I think we also need to have and demonstrate respect for small business. And in particular, get our young people involved. Statistically, we have a very young population. The question is how many of the young people in this city are aware of the need to be environmentally friendly? How much educational drives goes into our schools? How many of our children do understand the importance of the sustainable use of the environment? And to what extent are those messages filtered through into the home? It starts in the home, it starts in the communities. And I think we need to build this value chain over time in our communities of ensuring that to build a world-class city, it starts with me.
About 400 million we use in clearing illegal dumping spots and street sweeping and street clearing. Now imagine how many houses we could have built, how many informal settlements we could have electrified, how many households in Johannesburg could have been connected to water.
Make a better place for you and for me. Give yourselves a hand, everybody. Well done. Thank you so much.